journey for you, right from morning. But just wait for 15 minutes. Definitely you like my talk. I'm very confident about it. Because everybody was talking about the future. Everybody was talking about economy. But I'm going to talk about life. And that too, we are going to talk about Visakhapatnam. Talking about the most important and the initiatives which are really essential, which have to be taken immediately in Visakhapatnam, which is going to be the smart city. And everybody knows that it is going to be the smart city, and it is declared as a smart city. But some of the things which are to be done immediately, I'm going to discuss in this particular lecture. So, I use a method called environmental magnetism, which I did my PhD in Germany and postdoc in Germany, and I'm a professor in Andhra University. So I use this method to study environmental pollution, and I also use this method to study climate and the past climate. Okay. So the first thing, the objective of this talk is, what is Visakhapatnam and how is the structure of Visakhapatnam controlling the pollution? I mean, the structure of Visakhapatnam is such where that itself is the cause of pollution. I'll talk about it. And the second thing is the most bothering problem in Visakhapatnam, where we have a coastal stress, where there is an erosion in the coast, which very less people are bothering about it, but it is a mind-bothering problem. I'll just talk about it. And finally, I'll be talking about, there could be a massive landslide, which I'm going to show you in Visakhapatnam, and people are not bothering about it. So these are, I'm not trying to frighten you, but I'm trying to tell you that there is an alarming situation coming in Visakhapatnam. So let me talk about the method which we use to study pollution. So simple. The particles of magnetic in nature are accompanied with the industries. This means the effluents of industries are accompanied by magnetic particles. So whenever we identify the particles and measure the particles, we are able to identify various materials which are coming from industries. So that is the basic idea, where we are able to distinguish the anthropogenic origin and the lithogenic origin. So this is the basic principle what we use to understand the pollution levels in Visakhapatnam. And fortunately, the idea of this magnetism, or the idea of it, is a very simple technique. A magnetic susceptibility is, it's so simple, and it is a primitive technique where we measure magnetic susceptibility of substance, and we found that most of the magnetic materials where the susceptibility is correlating with the heavy metals. These heavy metals are a serious problem to our health, where they are really hazardous to us. So whenever we have a correlation between the heavy metals and the magnetic thing, where we have a very cheap method to identify pollution. So this is a new technique, or this is a nice technique to identify pollution with a very cheap method and very fast. It takes hardly a few seconds to measure, and you know that there is a kind of very good correlation between the heavy metals. So that's the reason why this technique has become, over there in that particular slide, you can see that the magnetic susceptibility is very well coinciding with manganese and zinc and lead and so on. So that's the reason why we can use a magnetic method as a proxy for studying the environmental pollution. Well, I do not want to go further with that. What we have done really, what I have done is, we have just gathered road dust. You know, when we are driving bikes or when we are on the roads, we see road dust beside the roads, which at the rim of the roads. So what we did is, we have simply collected that dust and analyzed that dust. So all those samples, all those points which you are seeing is, all the roads were covered and simply collected. So that's what is the sampling, what we have done. So it's a very high resolution sampling we have done, and all roads. So the most interesting part of the story starts here. Thing is, you see that the the red over there shows you the most, I mean, at the shallow or they are the deepest levels of Visakhapatnam. It is like a basin structure, which is, Visakhapatnam is like a bowl, okay? So it is happening that all the fine grained sediments or all the fine grained dust is accumulating at that particular place. So it is observed also in magnetic susceptibility frequency, which gives us the grain sizes. It clearly shows that all the fine grained dust is accumulated at that particular basin point. And now what happens is, whenever the wind blows, it is again picking up the dust and surrounding the whole city. So it is becoming a source as well as sink. So that's what we have observed. So now there should be a remedy for this. We have come up with a remedy also, and this also shows that we have also seen the suspended dust. I mean, we wanted to know how the suspended dust is. So what we did is, we have used only a simple cloth, a rug-like substance, where we hang that for 60 days, and that was a very nice dust catcher. So we measured it, and we have observed that both the samples on the road and the samples on the of the cloths were giving the same signal, which clearly shows that our suspended dust is something representative. And how far our dust is really good? Is it really real or something unrealistic? So we have tested with a regular high volume sampler, where this is a high volume sampler, it simply sucks dust, and we have correlated with the regular sampling technique what we used, and somehow both of them have correlated so good, and it proves that our method is really working. And you see that the suspended dust, which is from the areas of Jnanapuram and from this particular area, is being carried towards MVP column. So it is like a bowl which is spiraling and being pushed towards the rest of the city. So that's the reason why we have to have a remedy for this. And these are the particles what you breathe. Can you imagine that these are the particles what you breathe? So these are the particles which are effluents from the vehicles, and this is a scanning electron microscope image where we have just took out from the simple extracts of the samples what we have got, and it's really puzzling. Once they go into your lung, they will never come out again. So they are highly toxic, and we have utilized this, and we try to find out the single particles, what are they. And we really found that these are highly porous, and there are not one single particle, but a sum of so many particles. So these are nanoparticles altogether. So when these nanoparticles get into your lung, there is no possibility that you can get rid of that. It is in your lung for the rest of your life. So that's the reason why we found that these have a very high amount of heavy metal content, and these are the reason why we have a very, we categorize these as a hazardous materials. Well, they have a very nice. I think you cannot understand this because this is something related to a complete magnetism, where I would simply say that the particle is quite large, but it shows me that the particle is very small in magnetic study. So this shows that this is not a single particle, but it is sum of all particles combined together and showing it as a single particle. So it's like whenever a melted material just goes up, it is being flying and you simply inhale it. That's how it is in the suspended dust. So this is a real danger where we found that there should be a remedy for it. The reason why what we see is we must, at the point of sink where at Jnanapuram or the places where a lot at port area, we need to use some filters. We need to use some vacuum cleaners we need to use some sprinklers, water sprinklers, in such a way the sink and the source are not the same. So that's the reason why I have given a report saying that we need to have a remedy for that in such a way that the sink is seen that it is cleaned in such a way that will not be again a source. So that's the reason why. So our study has become very successful. And the next part what we talk about is the sea level changes. So the sea level changes there are two causes of sea level changes. Of course, we have studied during our childhood days the geography of it. But the sea level changes are majorly of two. One is because of the glacial and global warming, because the glaciers are melting and there is a global warming which is taking place, and the sea level is continuously rising. Since 1880, the sea level has risen up to something like 9 inches, which is quite a lot. And the other thing which you see is the moon, which is the reason for the sea level changes. See, the moon has a cycle of 18 years, 18.6 years. During a particular cycle, you will have a high tide, more number of high tides and less number of low tides. Now we are in a situation where we have more number of high tides in this particular cycle. So now, this is the reason why our coast is being spoiled regularly. You see the coast, so the whole coast is being eroded. So now, there is no possibility for our coast to be, the line of the coast need not be shifted. It cannot be shifted anymore because all the civilization and all the apartments have come very close to the sea. But it is not possible for that to be changed. But the only thing what can be changed is we need to have a complete coastline or a coast wall where at least where there is a high tide, there is a possibility that you can stop the erosion. You can stop the water coming in and eroding the land. And if this process or if this is not left or if this is not minded and if we are not bothering about this problem, there is a possibility that all those people who are living in the coast might really have a hazardous life in future. Because this is setting an alarm where the erosion has taken place and there's a lot of erosion taking place in the Visakhapatnam city. And the most important problem I would like to discuss, and this is only my opinion, this is not a completely work which has been done, this is my next work which I'm trying to do on this. Thing is, we have where the civilization and the apartments, the houses are being constructed on the slopes of Simhachalam hills. If you see, all the we have a highway, and beside the highway, right side, we have all the structures which are built up. This is nothing but on the mountain of Simhachalam hills. Now, if you see, those mountains are not absolutely granitic in nature, they are metamorphized, they are not consolidated. Those rocks are like that, they are completely fractured. If you see at Tineti Park, there are some rocks which are falling regularly. Whenever there is a lot of rain, there is a lot of erosion which is taking place and the rocks are falling. The same process happens even in the slopes. Whenever you have a huge load, it's exactly like a glacier. Whenever you have a lot of ice which is being built up on a particular, there is an avalanche. So there is a possibility where there is a huge structures which are coming up in this particular area, right from, if you start from Madil Palam until NED Koth Road, the right side is completely being pulled up, and this could give rise to, at some point of time, I feel that there should be a lot of work which has to be done, where a lot of study has to be done to understand the strata of the understrata of this particular mountains, in order to give any license or any permissions to go for constructions of huge buildings or so. So I think this is the satellite image that I have taken. Those arrows which are showing there is a very high possibility of there could be, there's a lot of force which is acting and a lot of houses coming. There is a possibility that there could be a little slide, And if at all any earthquake or any little magnitude comes, there is a huge risk for those people who are living there. That's what is my intention. So the next part is I would like to really study on this particular aspect, and I hope we will have a very nice results in such a way that we understand the strata, because it's really important to understand this particular area where a lot of civilization is coming up. Thank you so much for your attention.